इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ
हर युग का ये भारत दर्शन, हर युग का ये भारत दर्शन, हर युग का ये भारत
ये
दर्शन।
इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ ये इंद्रप्रस्थ
Welcome to Indraprasth.
The capital of the world's oldest, largest, and most vibrant civilization and democracy.
where eminent experts unfold the past, present, and future towards building a greater Bharat, Mahabharat.
An initiative of Neera Misra's Draupadi Dream Trust,
Ranjit Chaturvedi's Project Atmanirbhar.
And Aryan Adityo from Chrysalis Media.
We are delighted to welcome today Professor B.B. Lal. Professor B.B. Lal, the doyen of Indian archaeology, is a living legend of archaeology and still going strong at 100.
he has the distinction of having initiated the search for places mentioned in epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana, as well as the Indus-Saraswati Harappan civilization.
He was honored with Padma Bhushan in 2000.
The topic for today is the historicity of the Mahabharata and the special significance of the first city, Indraprasth.
And I think this is going to be a great session. I've been waiting to hear from Sir for a pretty long time.
Welcome, Professor Saab.
Well, thank you very much, Neeraji, for the highly exaggerated introduction. I don't deserve it. I'm a humble worker in the field with a kind of missionary zeal. I want to know the truth because so many untruths have been prevailing from the colonial times. Now, some 85 years ago, when I was at the school, my teacher told me and my class fellows that the two Indian epics, namely the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, are mere figments of imagination. He also told us that the Rigvedic people were nomads and they came from outside and destroyed the culture of the northwestern part of India. Now, at this age, at that age, when I was only about 12, 13 years, I could do very little. But I was simmering all the time because the things appeared to me patently incorrect. However, in 1946, when I joined the Archaeological Survey of India, and I was given charge of the excavations branch, I was greatly delighted because now I had a tool in my hand, namely excavation and exploration, with which I could examine the sites and find out what they really contain, what is the truth about them. And you know, a very great, strong point about the sites is that all the sites mentioned in the Mahabharata bear even today the same name, so which makes it easy to examine them and use their evidence. For example, Hastinapur, the capital of the Kauravas, is even today known as Hastinapur. It lies in Meerut district of Uttar Pradesh. Also, take for example Mathura, from where Lord Krishna came, is the same Mathura on the bank of the Yamuna. The Pandavas requested the Kauravas to give them 5 villages. There are different versions of it, but generally taken are the 5 sites along the Yamuna. Their ancient names are Paniprasth, which is now known as Panipat, Shonprasth, which is now as Sonipat, Indraprasth, which is known as Indrapat, Tilprasth, and which is Tilpat, and Brikaprasth, which is Bagpat. The Kauravas didn't agree to give these villages to the Pandavas. So the battle was fought. It was fought at Kurukshet, which is even today known as Kurukshet. It's a place in Haryana. So my job became easy. The sites were ready, waiting for an exploration and excavation. And I took about 6 months, not minding the heat of June or the rains of July. I worked around, and within 6 months, I collected the evidence. Now, the evidence from exploration was like this. All these Mahabharata sites contain in their lowest levels a material culture which is characterized by a very special pottery which we call the painted graveware. It is a grey pottery, bowls, dishes, lotas, and all the usual dining set that we used to have before we had the tableware now, the traditional Indian dining set, thali, katori, gilas, and lota, that was there. Now these grape colored pottery pieces were painted with black designs in. Now this painted graveware was found at all these sites. And according to C14 method of dating, its date falls between 1200 BC and 800 BC. 1200 BC and 800 BC. Now, this evidence from exploration gave one clue. It put all these sites in a one single knot, a cultural interaction between them. And the date was 1200 to 800 BC. But that was nothing in the sense it did not prove the historicity of the Mahabharata. I mean, let the sites be contemporary during a certain period, but what has that evidence to do with the historicity of the Mahabharata? So I decided, to take up excavation at Hastinapur itself. To tell you the geography of Hastinapur, Hastinapur lies along the right bank of the Ganga. The mound stretches along the river from north to south. I put up a very long trench right across the mound from the western end to eastern. That is from the non-river side to the river side. But when I started working, within a month or so, I got some shocking evidence. That was that the western side of the mound, that is the non-river side of the mound, yielded the painted graveyard, but not the one facing the river. I was very much upset, and for nights together, I didn't have any sleep. But one night around 12 o'clock, an idea came to my mind. Is it possible that the riverside part of the mound was somehow cut away by the river in a flood or something like this? So 12 o'clock in the night, I went to the site with Petromax lamps, spade and pickaxes, and did some exploratory work. And I could assess roughly the area from where the mound was cut away. Next morning, I put the trench in the expected area and got the erosion line. All these photographs have been published, and you have to see them to believe what I say. You see, the material that was cut away, some of it lay at the toe of the mound. Then I wondered whether everything has been washed away and carried away by the river, or is it that something is still remaining? So I did 4 boreholes in the river bed And would you believe, at the depth of 15 meters, I found the material of the painted mirror culture. So this fully confirmed the flood evidence that is a heavy flood in the Ganga washed away a part of Hastinapur. Then, you see, I try to correlate archaeological evidence with ancient literature. These are the two very important sources. And if the evidence in both tally with each other, then I feel satisfied. So I looked up the Puranas, and in the Vayu Purana and Matsya Purana, I found some very interesting. I found some very interesting evidence. These give the genealogy from Parikshit, who ascended the throne after the Mahabharata war, down all the way. The genealogy mentions a king called Nichakshu, as at number 5 from Parikshit. The text say, Gangaya aprate tasmin nagare nagas ave tyaktva nichakshu nagaram kaushambyam sanivasati. Translated in English, it is like this. In the time of Nichakshu, there was a heavy flood in the Ganga, which washed away Hastinapur, and the capital was shifted to Kaushambi. So this literary evidence supported the evidence of archaeology, namely Hastinapur having been washed away by the flood. Then the second part, Kaushambyam Sanivasati, Nichakshu will shift his capital from Hastinapur to Kaushambi. The evidence, archaeological evidence from Kaushambi is equally telling. In the lowest levels of Kaushambi, we have found a kind of painted graver, which is not so crisp and nice as in the early part of Hastinapur. But towards the end of Hastinapur, just before the flood, the painted graver had begun to deteriorate. It was not so fine, and the paintings were few and far between. The occurrence of this kind of pottery in the lowest levels of Kaushambi, which are dated to about 800 BC by the excavator, Professor Sharma, clearly shows the connection between the end of Hastinapur and beginning of Kaushambi. So, archaeological evidence was supported by literature, and literary evidence of shifting the capital was again supported by archaeology. So this supporting each other, literature and archaeology have given us a very clear picture. Now I go further into the genealogical list. The list gives the names of the kings after Nichakshu, and it goes on down and down till it comes to Udayan, a king called Udayan, who was 24th in the list from Parikshit. Udayan, as we know from other sources, was a contemporary of Buddha. He invited Buddha to come to Kaushambi, which Buddha agreed to do. Buddha, as we know, died in 483 BC. In other words, it was around 500 BC that Udayan was ruling. Now it comes to the most critical and debated question about the chronology. See, Udayan was ruling in 500 BC. From Udayan back to the Mahabharata war, there are 24 generations. Now, how much time would you like to give? It is not an individual's fancy, but on facts I'll tell you how it worked out. I took up all the dynasties of the Hindu period, namely the Mauryas, Shungas, Karnas, Kushanas, Shakas, and all the Muslim rulers from Qutubuddin Aibak to Bahadur Shah Zafar, and worked out the average. I found that the highest average was 11 years, 13 years of the Guptas. But the total average of the averages of all the dynasties turned out to be 13.55. Now, if we round it off to 14, or even say 15, then 15 per ruler, mind you, it is not generation, father and son, but the ruler. Because as we know, some kings had a very long duration, like Akbar, who ruled from 1556 to 1605, and other rulers who had only 2 years of life. So the average comes to, if we round it off to 15, multiply 15 by 24, that is 360. If we add 360 to the time when Udayan was ruler, it comes to 860. Now, I do not say that actually 860 was the year of the war, but it gives an approximation. Even if you enlarge it to 20, which is not anywhere in the world it has happened. It never went to 20. Parliament made a survey of all the world dynasties, and his maximum was 18. But I say, let us for discussion take 20 years per ruler, and you have 24 rulers. It makes it 480. 480 plus 500 gives you 900 figures, 980 BC. So whichever way you try, you never cross 1000 BC. I'm afraid this date will not be acceptable to many. Many of us who are, I don't know what word to use, sentimental about our ancient history. I want to be factual, not sentimental. Now, altogether, the evidence of literature and archaeology shows that Mahabharata was not a myth as our colonial masters had initiated. It had a basis in reality. Although, of course, we must remember one thing, that not everything mentioned in the Mahabharata is corroborated by archaeology. The reason is simple. I don't know if you are familiar with the Mahabharata text. As of today, it has 100,000 verses. But this very text says that in the beginning, there were only 8,800 verses. And the book was called Jaya. Then it swelled up to 24,000 verses. And this was called Bharat. Finally, it swelled up to 100,000 verses. So what is the real basic Mahabharata? We do not know. Scholars have tried. The Oriental Research Institute, Pune, has done a lot of work, but they too have failed to arrive at finding out the original things. So these are the problems, real, which we have to face. And we have to, accept, willingly or unwillingly, the evidence of literature and archaeology which says that there is a basis for the historicity of the Mahabharata, and its likely date is not to be earlier than about 1000 BC. I mean, you can play about in the neighborhood of it, but can't go much beyond that. For example, there are people who, our friend Narhar Achar of Memphis University, who unfortunately passed away recently, he said on an astronomical basis the date would be 3102. Now, look at the whole thing. We know that there were 24 generations from the Mahabharata to Udayan. If we have 3002, the average per ruler will come 180 years. You can yourself imagine the average life is not that. The ruling period of each king being 108 years would appear to be prima facie untrue. So that is the position. Then I was asked by Miraji to say something about Indraprasth. So after finishing my work at Mahabharata sites and excavations at Hastinapur, in 1954, I was curious to know where is Indraprasth. Now, as you say, imagine the geography of Delhi. From the Pragati Maidan, if you go down the Mathura road towards Mathura, to the east of the road is an ancient fort called Purana Killa. This fort was built by Humayun and Sher Shah in the medieval times. But little did anybody know that this fort was built around an old mound which is 10 meters, 30 feet high. So those of you who have gone to Purana Killa must have realized that you go up and up till you come to the level in Purana Killa. So 1954, I thought of excavating a part of the site in this ropey area so that I can get the results quickly. And what I found that in that area, in that particular area, which was on a slope, the uppermost levels were those of the Kushanas. Kushan pottery was available. Below that were the Shunga material. Below were the northern black polished ware, which is of the time of the Buddha. Then below that we found shards of painted grey ware. Unfortunately, these shards were not in a very stratified deposit. They were stray pieces lying about. Now, this was not a very happy situation because we should have got it. We want still to get the horizontal layers of the painted grey ware as we have at Hastinapur and other Mahabharata sites. At the same time, it is very clear that the painted grey ware occurs at Indraprasth. Though it did not occur in the very trench which we did, but within a radius of about 100 meters. If we extend the trench now, I'm sure we will get it. So the association of Indraprasth with the painted grey ware, which is typical Mahabharata pottery, is very important. It fully establishes the history of of Indraprasth. And this 10-meter high mount contains a continuous history from the time of the painted graver through northern Black Forest where Shungas, Kushanas, Guptas, Rajput period, Sultanate period, then Mughal period, and up to the British towns. In the 20th century, at the beginning, there was a settlement here, which is registered in the revenue records as Indraprasth. This, I have published a photograph of it. This is right from the Mahabharata times up to the British times. 3,000 years of history lies within this mound. Unfortunately, it has not been well preserved. The site deserves to be well preserved, and there should be a museum so that visitors can see. Because seeing is believing. You can't believe what you do not see. So I have been pleading, but my request has fallen on deaf ears. Anyway, we'll continue to pursue that. In fact, with Neeraj ji, some lady known to her, has drawn a plan of putting a glass case over the excavated area. That plan was shown to the Director General, but the Director General showed her the doors. So that is what the present situation is. I thank you very much for patient hearing. I have been having bad throat, so coughing all the time and sipping water. But I hope you will think over what I have said and try to assess my statement. Don't take everything for granted, but please do not throw it away. We have evidence in our hand, which we must do the assess and utilize. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely mesmerizing.
Definitely, it was not only mesmerizing, but it was magical. But in fact, it was a journey. Sir, one of the most important objective of Indraprasth talk is to connect our youth to our history and culture. So on the basis of that, I'm too greedy to ask you a question. So when you talk about history, it's a package of two things. One is the fact, logical fact, and the second thing is the narrative. So there are high chances जिस तरह के इतिहास हम पढ़ते हैं, we get carried away, we get overdriven by the narratives, and we often ignore the facts. So what do you suggest, especially people who are interested in history, not only people who are interested in history, but every youth, how they connect to the history and understand the facts more than getting carried away with the narratives?
You see, my report on all these excavations, individually say Hastinapur, nor other places have been published. But I have published also books on individual topics. The historicity of the Mahabharata. Indraprasth, a separate book on it. And I think the younger people would do well to find some time to read this. I mean, as I said, I don't want people to accept things as I say. Read it, criticize it, come on with your criticism, and I'll try to answer.
I want to ask one question with Showcase Indraprasth. We also have taken up a small, an objective of getting even two things here. One is a Krishna statue, because we feel Krishna laid the foundation stone of the city of Indraprasth. So Indraprasth also represents Atmanirbhar Bharat and Karma Yogi Bharat and Dharmanishta Bharat. So we want two things. We want the Kul Devta of this dharti, that is Shri Krishna, to be commemorated with a huge statue on the banks of Yamuna river. And Yamuna has nourished us. And second thing, if the capital can again be renamed as Indraprasth. On these two things, we would want to have your views.
No, you see, having this statue of Lord Krishna on the bank of the Yamuna at a suitable place is a very good idea. Very good idea. We have these, for example, as we go towards Gurgaon and beyond, we have a very big statue of Hanuman. Why can't we have it that of Lord Krishna? What was the second thing you said? Renaming.
Renaming, yes.
Well, renaming has become a fashion. For example, Madras has been changed to Chennai, and Bombay, of course, spelling is changed. Mumbai, Calcutta has become Kolkata. So, now this is a thing which should be very much resisted, I can tell you. There is what goes as the opposition parties. The moment you put this idea across, they will say this is Hindu chauvinism. They won't realize that it was the original ancient name. It was the most ancient name of Delhi. Because so it will put the thing in perspective. But you have to, I think, work hard, steadily, slowly, persuasively to get your aim done. I mean, changing the name is not a bad idea. But I am saying, I see lots of impediments in your. May God bless you and your ideas.
Thank you so much. So you are in favor of getting it named to its original identity.
Yes.
Namaste Lalji.
Namaskar.
I heard from a lot of other archaeologists, date of between 1800 BC and 1700 BC. Sanjay Munjalji has mentioned that is a possible date of Kurukshetra war. And I also learned about the BRW, which is similar to the painted grey-ware, the black redware pottery has now spread. It is available almost every other Mahabharata cities. So these two things I've been hearing for a long time, and I just want to know what is your opinion about that.
You see, black and red ware has a long history. Its earliest evidence is available at Bahar. Then it goes on and on by fits and starts. But by the time of the painted grey-ware, it's not the black and red ware painted designs. So, I mean, there is a progressive change in it. And on this topic, I understand there is going to be another webinar after a few days on the archaeoastronomy. I just heard somebody is now of the view that it is 7000 BC. You see, simply thinking, I mean, coolly think. A drama can be staged, Mahabharata can be staged only at the sites which are mentioned in it, not sites which are not mentioned in it. Now, Hastinapur, Mathura, Kurukshetra, etc., whatever evidence they produce will have to be accepted willingly or unwillingly. I mean, let us be honest to ourselves.
Sir, even like in Egypt, ancient Egypt, or even certain European countries, some graffitis or some inscriptions have been found which could not be deciphered till date. But why Indian archaeologists are so obsessed that Indus Valley civilization is not part of Indian civilization?
No. We have always claimed that it is Indian civilization. It was named the Indus civilization because for the first time it was found in the Indus Valley, and therefore the name was given. And once a name is given, it continues.
Namaste, B.B. Lalji.
Namaste,
My name is
namaste.
Krishna Ramurthy. Thank you for the fascinating talk. I am an electrical engineer here in the United States. I've been working on Mahabharata dating through astronomical software means, dating it to 1504 BCE. And my question to you, sir, is, and another important site is Dwarka, and Dr. S.R. Rao's dating shows that it was flooded and got sunk by 1500 BCE. So how do you reconcile these two?
Actually, Dwarka, long and continuous history from the time of the Indus civilization. I'm sure they have evidence of a site about 1200 to 1000 BC also. These comparisons will have to be made, and if there is any change, we'll have to adjust these things. See, I don't want to be very rigid about anything. Archaeological research is an ongoing process.
तो ये जो डिबेट है कि महाभारत हिस्ट्री है, कितना इतिहास है, कितना फैक्ट्स है और कितना नैरेटिव है, we are still driving this as a mythology, as a narrative of mythology. My question is, can you give us some input जहाँ पे हम वहाँ से connect कर सके, उस facts को connect कर सके, जिससे हम उस पे we can go to the facts that Mahabharata is also history, just not driven mythology or just not narratives.
No, it is not mythology. It is history. There is a basis for it. There is no doubt about it.
So, what can be done to make this profession much more interesting, and how to produce many more archaeologists in future?
The people, some say about 20 or 30 people should form a group and take up the case with the government. See, unless the thing is hammered on their head, they won't move. Granted that at the moment they have no time for archaeology in this COVID era, but after this, let there be public pressure on this government. You see, they are very unmindful of things. Where there is a will, there is a way.
And for this session, thank you so much, Professor B.B. Lal. It was a legendary journey through our history and culture. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And thank you everybody for being a part of this journey.
इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ।
हर युग का ये भारत दर्शन, हर युग का ये भारत दर्शन, हर युग का ये भारत दर्शन।
इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ जय इंद्रप्रस्थ।
Welcome to Indraprasth,
the capital of the world's oldest, largest, and most vibrant civilization and democracy,
where eminent experts unfold the past, present, and future towards building a greater Bharat, Mahabharat.
An initiative of Neera Misra's Draupadi Dream Trust,
Ranjit Chaturvedi's Project Atmanirbhar,
and Aryan Aditya from Crisol's